This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, you'll feel it click.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you gotta do
Did you
on the
press the
underside,
button
you gotta
bottom?
do the power button on the underside first. I know,
There are too many buttons.
I know, these things, nope,
check
press
this.
and hold the
There's
bottom.
The
Where
front,
it says push.
right here,
Yep,
the push
yep.
button on the
The
front.
little tiny button, it kind of feels weird.
I
No,
know.
no, on the other side. On the
This
underside,
thing
Mary,
kicked
on the
my
underside.
tail for like 3 meetings until I finally.
If it makes you feel any better, I have a 4-year degree and still struggle with these, so
These things
it is
are the
okay.
It took me up until, not kidding, like 6 months ago to figure out that you don't have to press and hold this, you just have to push it.
Oh.
Cause it's,
You gotta hold it for like.
cause it's not
3 or 4
easy to
seconds.
feel the.
Yeah, like I'm ready for like a
Great.
Yeah.
There's extra packets.
Call meeting in order. Approve the agenda. Add to it, anybody?
Maybe I should add chicken moving.
Right.
You can grab a packet over there if you'd like one.
Very, do it for
Those two.
3 trees into that area that we cut. Maybe we should add that, to the agenda, could we do that?
Here's a pen.
New business? New business, that's what I was thinking.
Or the new,
What's that, Mary?
new,
Under new business.
anything else? The motion to approve it then?
I'll make a motion to approve with additions.
Second.
A motion and second to approve the agenda with the additions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Minutes from September 12th. Any additions or corrections? Need a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the September 12th minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approve accounts payable.
I'll just say that, Shane Electric bill was to fix the light in Treasurer's Park. There was another light that got packed into the rail up there.
The last item on there, the disc golf course signs, they have not been ordered, have they?
Yes, but they don't have anything customized on them.
Because I was gonna say, we're still working out options and details for the signs, we really haven't even approved.
But I should not say yes, because I think the check is still in there. Like it hasn't been sent out. The invoice has been created and, because we received the invoice.
What signs are they?
They're the sponsorship signs is what I'm assuming they are.
Well, aren't they-
But we don't even have sponsors yet. We're still working on some of the artwork and
No,
different
but
things, so.
are these the ones that we approved last month that he was, because we approved for him to get the cages and the holders or whatever, the way I'm understanding.
Right, unless this is just the sign holders.
That's what I'm
But I
wondering.
didn't see that as $500, but maybe I'm
See,
wrong.
I'm not visioning this stuff.
Right.
So I'm just kind of, that's why I didn't send any of these out. Okay, so it says laminated aluminum sign, 10 by 10, 4 color. And then there's another aluminum sign that's a 36 by 48.
So that must be the
So
big
that's
one.
That's the main signage, I'm assuming, with artwork pending. So prepaying for something that we don't have possession of yet, but I definitely wouldn't pay that until we actually take possession of it. There should be an invoice. We haven't received anything yet.
I agree with that. That's why I was very confused, because I
This-
knew you guys had a sub.
this isn't
meeting
the
on
bill.
one.
It's just something that he's,
Yeah, it's an invoice.
Can you just set that aside?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hold on, because we
Yeah.
still haven't decided what the actual artwork is gonna look like. I'd hate to have it show up and then say, oh, what we really want is something different, then we have to pay
Send it
for
back.
both.
Yeah.
And I would also like to point out the invoice 77879
Yeah.
is
For a U-Haul that they went down to get the baskets with.
Do we have the previous minutes? I thought that was
I
something
thought,
that offered
yeah.
up to say, I'll go get them.
Yeah, that's.
They did.
That was my
Cover the
understanding.
gas. They did, and he said that he had something to go get them in too.
Right.
That is what
I
my
can
understanding
I could
was.
definitely understand reimbursing someone for the gas to get this, because this was quite a trip, wasn't it? Didn't it go all the way down to
Kansas.
Kansas?
well.
But $1,000, I'm assuming if we were to call up this company and say how much to ship that
It was $1,500 to ship.
$1,500 shipping,
And they have not turned in gas receipts to me if they were planning on doing that.
right? would
So
be
that
my only
also has
concern,
not
is
been paid.
that ultimately, this invoice here, even if we approve this, saved us $500 of having them shipped, but I thought the original thing, which maybe shame on us, was too good to be true, but I'll go get them just for the cost of gas, was the original agreement.
I'm pretty sure that I also
Well,
heard that.
That's what I heard.
listened to the last month's meeting this morning, and we were talking about that. You had said that Mike volunteered to go down and get them with the buddy's pickup, and Mike didn't say
Correct.
anything to change that or anything.
Yeah.
But that's the whole idea. We didn't have to.
I think he said, I have a buddy that has a box truck, I think is how he said it.
Correct.
Either way, though, he said he was gonna go down and get them and not rent a U-Haul for $1,000.
Well, that, and I would assume like even a utility trailer or a car trailer or something would be cheaper than $1,000. But then again, if we haven't been charged the gas, we're still money ahead than if we'd have had them shipped direct.
True.
That wasn't the original arrangement.
Right.
So it just scares me if he decides to turn in his gas also.
I think that's a conversation.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
The supplies, I'm assuming that is at Ace, that's all the buckets and the mulch and everything else that he was doing to install that. So I'm not sure if Ace details that out, but even at 18 different plastic buckets, and
Is that on here? In here?
that's the,
Discussion that I think should be had.
What's
yeah,
Well, I think it would be a lot, he didn't really converse with city staff to see what we already had, if we had any resources available to him.
here's what he picked up: a flag marking stand or something.
That might not be the one, you might have to look, because there might be a couple different ones in there.
should have told 239, it goes in just one.
218 and 19. Marking paint.
That could be a different one, I think there might be two aces
He
on there.
purchased two
There's
shovels.
two aces on there, that's a
Yeah.
different one.
He purchased 2 shovels,
Yep,
11 plastic buckets, 18 bags of mulch.
Which we would have been happy to loan him a city pickup and get the mulch in bulk.
Correct, or use the city shovels.
So where are we
Yeah,
at with, where are we at
right.
with him? Is he kind of on hold right now?
Well, there was a couple of baskets that needed to be moved that were put into the MinDOT right away.
He
waiting
did
for
those
to get paid.
yesterday, it
So
looked like.
those got moved.
Mhm.
And then I had a email correspondence between him, Mary, Mike, and myself too about removing the mulch in the places where the baskets had previously been, because now the mower really can't mow there.
Mhm.
And then we tried to fill in some of the old T-pads that were just uprooted for whatever reason. And there's still some holes. I don't know, Mike, if you've gone out and checked those. He said he filled some in. I went through and it seems like it wasn't filled in very deep, if it wasn't filled in, or maybe it's settled.
It was still missing some.
And there was a couple I don't think that got hit yet. And then it looks like the majority of the cement T-pads that were uprooted are now all just stacked right next to the bike path at the closest basket right there by the little miniature parking lot right below the swimming pool. So I think there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had. Maybe Mary, myself, Mike will have another meeting with him and try and clarify some of the stuff. It certainly isn't free reign to just open up the city tab and just have at it, and there needs to be discussions made.
Well, I guess we can discuss that a little more in that whole business here. So do we want to? are we-
Sadly, with the ACE account, I wouldn't want to go disputing something locally that ACE, if we gave them approval to charge on our account,
We're just gonna make sure that we get those shovels if we don't, if
well,
they're not sitting wherever they,
100% that we're gonna have to do
Right.
that.
because I don't know if they're where they put the baskets or if they took them for now or what.
Yeah, but for him to even come and, to even give approval, well, yeah, anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit here.
I
So do
agree.
you want to hold these?
Well, I would certainly want to hold off on the U-Haul until we have a discussion, make sure that is the total delivery charge.
Yeah.
Well, it is broken out in he sent me a receipt with it, but it doesn't include fuel. But it looks like he had it rented from Thursday evening to, I think it was Sunday evening. And I think it was only $20 or $25 a day, so I think the mileage is what added up the most,
I'm sure.
but.
Well, can I just say, maybe he's doing this business, he makes a good presentation, maybe instead of a harsh line, we give him a teaching lesson. This is how you do good business with the city.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if he's maybe never worked with a city directly before.
We're gonna eat the cost anyway, so we want it done.
Right.
Correct.
We
Right.
can say, hey, you did this to us, and it's probably not appropriate.
Yep.
But here, let's finish the job together, and here's your check.
Right.
Mhm.
It's just a money
Yep.
Yeah.
facility.
Well, and then, it's a learning thing for us too,
Mhm.
we just kind of.
Right.
So I think we have to approve everything up until 8881, the signs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing, well, I suppose we can discuss this now while we're talking about this U-Haul thing, because he kind of wants the old baskets himself.
Oh, yeah.
So those were agreed to be sold and
Yeah.
reimbursed. Oh,
Then he can purchase them for $2,000.
right. So he had a guy that was going to purchase them for $2,000. Otherwise, we can put them on the market to sell, but we're certainly not going to donate them.
Right.
He wants-
Right.
Yeah,
he said,
he
"Here's what
sent, there's an email a couple pages back in there, I included in the one I printed here. He sent me an email last Friday that the original purchaser backed out. He would like to purchase the old ones for $1,800. He was wondering if he could do $300 a month for 6 months to pay for them.
The only reason I bring this up now, if that's
Yep.
something he's interested, we could do
Absolutely.
a barter with
Right, with the paying for the U-Haul.
the U-Haul.
Right, if he's got $1,000 into the U-Haul, he can make the payments on the last $800 for the baskets.
That's the reason I brought it up for you.
Mhm.
And I'm not super inclined to letting him take them before they're fully paid for.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yep.
something about that too.
Right.
Right. Because if he can do 300 a month, it's only gonna take him 3 months
Right.
to pay it
3 months
off.
To pay for the balance,
Right.
and then the U-Haul is a wash. I like that idea.
Mhm.
But I agree with Miranda that we keep possession of them until they're paid for.
Yeah.
Was there like a park motion and a contract that we set up for that basket?
For the,
He was going to sell them, and was that part of our decision, the motion?
it was kind of in discussion that.
He asked if he could do that and we said yes.
He had a group at a, he had a group at a Red Wing.
Red Wing, yep.
It was all verbal. you know.
Learning experience, but he's under contract or motion contract, or
Mhm.
whatever that language is. And he had to learn
It was just an incentive for us to proceed immediately with the $5,000 purchase of all the baskets and get going, because we were going to immediately recoup about half of those funds before even bringing in any sponsorship money. So
Right.
that's what gave us the green light to start immediately.
Mhm.
But I don't think we gave the false impression that we had like unlimited funds and just start running up a bill, reimbursing.
Right.
So again, learning lesson all the way around. I agree with you.
it. It's hard.
Got to be very clear in the future. But yeah, I would entertain that. I think that would be a great idea if he wants to barter the balance of what, his offset cost is there for the U-Haul rental and make a payment plan as soon as they're fully met at $100 a basket.
So can we take that out of here and then discuss that again in the new business?
Yes.
So we don't approve that part then?
Right.
Right.
But is the check for the U-Haul, is it check
So
to
it's-
him or is it to?
It's to his friend, and the
Okay.
reason he wanted it to go to his friend is because he said that they split the cost of the U-Haul 50/50. But then he paid for something else, so he was just gonna let all the money go to his friend. So I could say, well, that's something you guys are gonna have to work out then on your own.
Absolutely.
So we'll hold that check then too.
Yep, so do you want me to hold the Olson one and the Smart Sign one? We're holding that one too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, Smart Sign has not been approved yet, so I would
Yep.
want to.
Yeah, I'm gonna clarify that with him, because I don't know if they, it didn't really say if they needed money up front or if that was, because obviously it's not printed.
Correct. No.
Right, that's why I'm confused, because wouldn't we want to print those sponsorships on the signs before we purchase them?
Right, so I didn't know if
Because they don't
we
know
were
what the
gonna do,
designs are.
like, I didn't know if a local person was gonna do some kind of a vinyl graphic on them. We just needed the actual physical sign.
Correct.
So we'll hold both those.
Because those members, the sponsorships can change every year.
Right.
So
But at the cost of the sign that he was promoting, the whole entire sign that would be there, which is 14 by 10 inches, could have the map for that one hole, the details for that hole, and a sponsorship. And that whole thing was like $10.
Yeah,
Just a- it was
That's
just
what,
a
that's what it
vinyl-
broke down to,
Right.
was $10.51 per sign, and
So
then the
at
bigger one was
$10,
more.
if we get
Yeah.
a brand new sign every single year for all 18 holes, that's
Nothing.
nothing, $180.
But the big sign would stay unchanged, right?
The big sign was also going to be something that annually they could go in and throw.
Because I think the big sign was like almost $300.
Yep.
We knew that.
Yeah, I think
Because
so,
there's like
yeah.
15 spots where you can.
Right,
hold
oh, right,
Right.
right. Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
then he was talking about Zumbrota Ford wanted to buy like
Right.
multiple
Like if you want to
squares.
buy all 9 of
Yeah.
them, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep. So based on all this conversation, we're going to approve everything except for the Olson U-Haul rental and the Smart Sign disc golf signs.
Correct.
So I will make a motion to approve accounts payable minus those two things.
I will second that motion.
motion and a second on accounts payable, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unfinished business, priority list project updates. So, continue, or is that in the priority list? So,
It's on priority list.
It is.
It's not. Is it? Yeah, there's expand disc golf, number one, active, yep.
So, have you talked to him since the covered bridge thing?
Yep, we went out and met and I showed him the locations. Mike and I met with him, gave him the concerns about the baskets that were too close to the roadways, especially 58. And he's got 3 of the, I guess, 5 baskets that needed some tweaking already moved and away from Highway 58 and away from the park road.
No, I see he's got one, like, where the ice skating rink is, like, it's just like here.
Between the trees?
I see he's got one right over here.
Back in the corner, yep.
So where is this coming from there then? This way or
From
this
the
way?
from the old restroom,
From coming down along that way?
coming down towards, yep, coming down towards 58. Yep.
Was that, if somebody's on that cement, you know, these discs don't go straight all the time, they're not gonna be too close to the.
I wouldn't think that it would be an issue, just based off of what I see there. It's a fairly straight one. I mean, based off of where we had the previous 9 baskets in the proximity of the road and the bike path and things like that, like the one that he has yet to remove is probably closer to the bike path and to the road than any of the current baskets are now. And unless we've received some near misses or injuries related to that, I think we would be okay with where the baskets are now. The big concern, I agree with Mike 100%, that one that was way up, like within 5 feet of the sidewalk, like in between the new fresh trees that are right there by Highway 58, that was in MnDOT right away and couldn't stay there. So he's got that moved away. There was one that was way up right near the park entrance road that was way up on top. So if you tried to even pull over for like an emergency vehicle, you couldn't because the basket was there. That's been put down into what we would call the flood plain or whatever down in there. So that one's been moved as well. There was another one that was very close to the road and was actually right behind one of the vendors that was serving food during the Covered Bridge Fest. It was way up top. That's been moved down into like the pine tree area down below. So he did take our feedback very well.
And the one from by the bridge is totally gone, right?
Yeah, there was one that was going to be by the bridge, but that's no longer there. That's way down by some pine or some birch trees. So he's got one more basket to relocate that's still too close to right where the bike path crosses the park road. So he's gonna move that away from that and move it down further away. And then he's gotta take out the old basket that's still got a whole bunch of cement piled up on it. And then there's one basket right down by the old bathroom by where the warming house goes. That's just the pail is sitting on top of the ground, so it hasn't been dug in yet. Other than that, I think all the baskets are in their permanent, semi-permanent location.
So then when he starts doing his key boxes, or is he kind of like,
So I
well,
think
that hasn't been really,
they're marked. He's got some flags and he's got some paint striping and stuff where he would like to have the tee boxes, but that's something that Mike, myself, Mary, we're gonna have to walk and make sure that that's where we wanna go. And it's cement work, just like we do with the benches.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of that he is going to want to do versus, what do we do for our park benches? You guys normally frame that up and finish it yourself, or? So I would be willing to lend a hand with the concrete finishing if we wanna do that, but we could ask Mike to also help out, but I don't want him to just go out there and start trying to frame up concrete.
Mike, is that something that you guys wanna can or can't, or what, how should we handle that? Because so far, the way I'm looking, like, I agree with you, we're not gonna turn him loose. Because more, we talked about that cement, and after I was thinking the last month, there was no mention about, I think we need to re-rod these pads. Or what's your thought on that? Do you do that with the park benches? Do you re-rod them?
We haven't.
What's you guys' thought about that? A little bit of movement. How big are these gonna be the way?
4x8 is what he originally had come up with. Well, how big are our park benches?
That's what our opinion is.
Yeah.
Oh, they're 4x8 also?
They might be 5 by 8.
Oh, they're that big, I didn't think they were that big.
And the concept too was actually gonna be a little bit more narrow at the starting end and finish at 4 feet wide, almost kind of like a funnel, if you will. Yep,
So 4 foot on here.
4 foot on the front
Top
end.
to bottom.
8 feet deep from front to back.
Oh,
And
from
it
4
starts,
feet.
starts off maybe 2 feet narrow and widens up to 4 feet. So,
How do we want to handle the cement work on this?
We can work on it. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna get all done in one day. You know, we probably have to work on it for a little bit of time.
Or if he wants to, that's something you feel comfortable going over with him? I don't know, I just,
only if we, Mike and myself, lay out exact locations on where it's gonna go, I wouldn't want any more digging up and rooting up in the park without some supervision. At least that's my take on it.
Maybe you guys make a form too.
Yeah, I was actually gonna make the form just so we
Sure.
know what it would look like.
Right, just to make sure we even like
One
what
that'd be
that
consistent with all
is.
18
Right.
baskets, yep. And probably to Mike's point, if we're gonna do this in multiple pours, we're probably gonna be 3 or 4, forms where you can pour 3 in a day and then strip them and move on and do 3 more or something.
Right.
That would be ideal.
Right,
Instead of buying all the farms and everything.
correct.
I mean, is there any way to use some of them this year, or would it be a spring job?
Well, I think we can get some done yet, but I don't know, depends on the timing of getting everything walked through and making sure that.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting late
Yep.
here, so it's.
Yep. I can definitely set up a meeting with
Reach out
Mike to
him
reach
anyway,
out
so he
and
doesn't-
and coordinate between
You
the
guys-
3 or 4 of us and walk out there and
we're all
say,
on the same page,
if he's got them clearly marked with some marking paint with some flags, then it's just up to Mike and I to coordinate on the forms and get some of the concrete lined up.
Because mainly then the baskets are in, get them in, and it's just a.
Then it's just the signage, and Mary, Mike, and myself all have emails going out to him
Pretty
to
ready to roll.
finalize the signage and get some T signs. We're just gonna get some galvanized pipe from Menards, and then he's got this sign company for $500, and then he should just come out or pop them right in.
No, I didn't notice on the basket, that means there like a stick that says what number they are and stuff, or how do you? There's not.
No, the sign is, as you're teeing off, you know which basket you're on and where you're going to, but there's no sign on there. But there will be I call it a bumper sticker, but a large vinyl that wraps around the top of the basket that will be a sponsorship decal that changes annually.
Thanks for taking care of that, you guys, and holding the reins back on him.
Yeah, sorry, it was getting stopped. We gotta do what's right.
Yep,
Oh,
absolutely.
What you said was just, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's, he probably, like Miranda said, he's probably never worked with it, doesn't understand it. And
Right.
Correct.
kinda like, okay, we'll know better next time, that we need to be pretty specific on this stuff.
Yeah, we can't have fast.
Okay, the bathrooms up at the enclosed shelter, I've been talking to Larry Holst about the builder, and that'll, in the next couple of weeks, we're hoping to get a day here to get it. So that'll be up and enclosed before the snow flies. You know, I'm hoping, yeah, well, we'll see what happens, but
So that 22,000 to finish the project is part of the 40, right?
yes. Right, Mike?
Should be.
Good.
I think what JJ told me was he had like 18,000.
Yeah, and then I talked to him one day over there, because since you had talked to him, stuff come down, he looked at it quick, he said we'd probably be right around 15 or whatever to get here. And then the plumbing and to finish the plumbing and the electricity. Okay.
Tree placement?
Tree replacement. And is that part of the MRI store? Tree replacement we're talking?
In here?
On the priority list.
Yep.
So we got our GIS equipment and I went around and mapped out all of our ash trees. We've got 230 ash trees minimum in the park. I mean, I'm not sure even done. That's a lot of trees. I was just, and I'm working on that grant. That's part of the grant is having a mapping of it. Then I gotta have a tree plan before we can even start the narrative part of the grant. But, and I was talking with Paul and Jeff today a little bit about, that's a lot of trees. I don't even know how, I don't even know how to tackle it, to be honest with you. But part of the thought was that we work on that grant and my thought, and I'd like some feedback, but is to get the removal part done. But that's gonna take up most of the grant money. But when you look at replacing trees, I think, you know what, at the high end for trees, it's like $7 for a bare rooted tree. You know, if we replace, if the tree replacement isn't part of the grant and I can do that, we can put in 100 trees. That's a lot of trees to replace out there at that, because, you know, we get a lot of clusters of those ash borers up behind the bathhouse. There's another area in the campground. That's a cluster of trees, and there's a lot of trees in there. Well, you don't want to, the grant calls for you to replace 1-to-1, but you don't want to replace 1-to-1. I mean, you couldn't even do it up there. They're so thick up there. So if we could get the grant portion just to cover the removal, which is going to take up, that's $150,000 maximum grant. But, you know, that many trees, I mean, we'd have to, you know, we'd even have to try to get rid of some of the logs, have people come and get rid of the logs, plus all the brush part of the tree. Wondering if we could even burn some of that brush on site, or some of the tops of the trees on site, you know. It's just an enormous, and some of them trees are good size. They're really good, big ash trees.
But we'd have to hire that to get them taken down.
That's the only way we can manage it.
Right.
Did you say that grant was through the DNR?
You know,
But for the brush and stuff, they can haul it down there then, or?
well, I mean, we could, but we're gonna get so overwhelmed with even that. I mean, those trees there, top, I mean, they've got a lot of top to them, those ash trees. Just wondering if we could even burn them, you know, different piles of them in
Right in
the
the
park as they're taking them down. I don't know, you know, it's just looking at an option. I think we get way overwhelmed at the brush side with that even.
And then just a thought, is there, like, how big a chipper can a guy get? Would it be easier to chip it and then haul chip somewhere, or?
I don't know what kind of a chipper we could even get.
Well, I mean, I seen Asplin or whatever, when they go around, they throw some pretty good size stuff in there.
Well, it's just, you know, some discussion like that, you know, to talk about and see what, you know, it isn't gonna, the interesting thing is working through this grant process is, I'm trying to figure out which end I should work on. And I think I gotta work on the removal end, you know, because I think, you know, if you bought 100 trees, that's $700. You know, I don't think that's out of line, something that we could handle internally if we had to. But it's actually the removal part that's gonna get costly.
So we can sell the trees to a mill? Has anyone thought of that? Is it not worth it?
No, they won't take the ash trees. Your best bet is if you could get somebody to come in and burn wood, you know, you got, you know, like the John Mann's around or somebody, you know, try to get rid of as many logs as you could.
You can't transfer ash firewood, right? That's what's spraying for. So
I think that's all off the table anymore, because I think ash is the boards everywhere, so I didn't see any restrictions on getting rid of the logs in the grant yet. I haven't come across that.
Then we gotta get rid of the stumps.
And then the stumps, I would say, that are in the open, we get rid of, the ones that are buried in the woods, I'd probably let them, right.
So it's kind of, I mean, all pending on the grant, and go for the removal of it.
Right.
So when is the grant due, or what are you looking for? I mean, it sounds like a good idea to,
It's due in December, I think.
I agree with you. It sounds like a great idea to focus on just the removal side of it. I mean, obviously that's phase one and that's the most costly option. So I would definitely focus on trying to get as much
Because
money.
all the trees are good, and we did treat, and you saw that in the accounts payable, we did treat those first 10.
Yep.
But all the trees there, and they've all got it, you know, and it's a matter of time. Those in the back are the worst. As you come forward, they're a little better. But they've all, even the ones up front are, I have no doubt they have emerald ash borer in them.
Like the 230 you counted, there are a lot in the deep woods, and then we have like 20 or 30 so on.
Well, even down by the ice skating rink down there, those are pretty good sized ash trees. And then there's a few through the campground itself, there's a couple of big ones out there too.
So every town must be going through this. So do you know what these other towns are?
Oh, I think the way it sounds, everybody's, applying for these grants to help get rid of them. I guess I was maybe a little surprised at how many ash trees were, you look at the park, you drive into the park road, and these canopies ash, and you don't pay attention to what's outside of that canopy. And 230 trees is a lot of trees.
What can you do?
We gotta take them down, I guess.
Like I said, just from my perspective, I'd like to see, because they're gonna die. They're dying, they're gonna die, they're all infected. I just assume, look at trying to get to the removal process and worry about the replacement. Either in another grant or do it on our own. Like I said, if you put 100 trees into that park, taking 230, I don't think those 230 wouldn't, they're so clustered, it'd be nice to open it up in some spots a little more anyway. 100 trees to put back in there seems like a lot of trees to replace, even taking out 230.
All right, so do you need help with the GIS net, or do you need help with the grant narrative? What can we do?
Well, Kim and I are working on the grant, the GIS. So far, I've got everything plugged into that. It's a matter of getting that to the county now so they can put it in our mapping system. I'm working with the county and get the actual put into our system. And once it's there, then everybody can actually look at it. We can pull it up here and you guys can see the trees that are for removal and the trees that were treated and stuff.
So right now you don't need anything really from us, just to update.
No, just a little thought on,
Update, yep.
if you're thinking removal would be and I'm gonna talk to the DNR, or I've talked to her through an email, ask her questions, so I should be responsible for that too.
Okay.
Should we put 10,000 plus grant in our column there? And then if the grant fails, do you want to just do a couple trees at a time until we get?
Well, I think we're gonna be forced to, just the sheer shape of those trees that they're dead, almost have to get rid of them as we go along, then for sure. Because they'll be a hazard.
2 a year will be done in 120 hours.
Right.
2 a year. I think we need to make sure we're very transparent with the people in town about this, that we have the ash borer out there, because I bet a lot of people don't know that, and let them know that we have it and this is what we're doing about it, and that the trees have to come down, and then we're going to be replacing them. And if we can do that and get them to understand, maybe even if we do a fund drive, buy a $7 tree, donate a tree to the park, and get the people, I mean, if everybody in town bought a $7 tree, we could flood the park.
It's a great idea.
Also teach them about ash borer.
But I think we need to get an article in the paper when we know what we're doing.
I had a bunch of that literature, I think I had it set out last time.
Yeah, I've got it on my
Mhm.
little rack of paper stuff.
Because if we tell them up front what we're doing, then maybe we can prevent a show.
Oh, did that be an article in the newspaper or something?
We could do it on the newspaper and put it on the
Educate them
website.
and just tell them what we're looking at doing.
I think I could even reach out to the school with some of that information that I've got, you know, there must be some class, whether it's an
A science
agriculture
class, yeah,
or science
absolutely.
class or something that I could share that information with one of the classes.
And if the kids come home talking about
Right.
the trees are sick in the park, yeah.
Maybe even through the elementary school, you know, some of that, you know, like, yeah, and it would be kind of neat to have a fundraising effort.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know, I think that would.
get everybody involved in,
Get them into the park.
I like it.
Natural resources management, 101.
Mhm.
The cabinets and the shelter, Mike, I know you've been talking a little about
I
that.
think we changed that just a little bit. We're gonna go with just a countertop and a sink, a new sink. I don't think we need all the cabinets in there. We talked about putting cabinets in there at one time, but nobody actually stores anything in there anyway, you know, more for
Daily
Serving.
use.
dishes and
Mhm.
stuff like that, so,
Yeah.
you know, if we could save some money on that, just put a countertop in there, and then we'll cut a sink in and bring water and sewer into. And we'll hopefully get that done this fall yet, too.
Okay,
Just get one of those fish fillet counters. Put down metal and you just throw it on.
I think that's more expensive than countertop.
dugouts, we're still gathering stuff on that.
I owe Mike a drawing for the actual roof, but I got at least the fencing drawing and then one of the quotes for the fence there, at least from what it would cost from Menards. So, but I still owe a drawing and at least one quote for what the roof top would be.
Still working on that. Okay. Skate park,
Just thinking that we, you know, from Darren, last meeting, and included in the package.
last one,
I think it was last meeting, from Derek.
that's the gentleman that was,
The skate park.
Yeah.
He just ran out of time and said he didn't have any time.
Oh, he backed out now? Oh. I'm gonna look back.
do you know, I mean, do we have to contact a city that's got these to find out who they work with? Or, I guess that's the roadblock we're at, aren't we? We just don't know who to get hold of.
Right.
I mean, these things are all over the place, so
Red Wing probably has them. Pine Island took theirs out.
I was gonna say Rochester probably should have something, I would think.
A lot of places are going to concrete
Right, yeah.
and not have the wood.
Do like a one style of a ramp per year or something, put like a pool side and replace the next ramp with concrete. I don't know, if we can put that in our priority plans for the future,
well, sometimes a lot of that plywood is getting to be dangerous, so either we have to do, somebody's gonna, you go out there, the plywood is really flaking off. And it's like, kind of like sharper edges on it too.
it's up to us to fix it, support it, or we can lose it, you know? Whatever we can afford, maybe one piece a year. That's my idea.
Of the concrete, is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking like the ramp, like maybe you need a concrete half pipe one, then a concrete pyramid thing. And then we just kind of piece it out until it's all safe for the future sound. That's what I'm trying to say.
Can we do, I don't think we can do concrete there though, can we?
You can't have anything permanent.
Permanent and movable.
Right.
How about just dirt bike track then?
Yeah, there you go.
So, what do we
All
want
right.
to do with that? Put more thought into it, or what?
I'll see if I can find a city that I know this stuff is expensive, but I'll see, I'll check in Rochester.
I can reach out to my cousin in Rochester too. He was instrumental in doing some of their skate park stuff, see if he has any contacts. If I do, I'll forward them to you, Mike.
Did Para give us any guidance before he left?
He did, and he had one gentleman that had a call into and also told me they had a second.
Oh.
Wasn't doing very good, and I never heard from him, and of course, Jim left.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice, I think as our roadmap, it would be nice to find that outlet so we can get some solid numbers on what it would really cost us to replace this, or if they got suggestions. I think that's where we gotta shoot for. Okay, anything else on there?
The campground, showers, and bathrooms, I think we're moving ahead with that grant, correct?
Yep.
We applied for that grant, so I'm working on updating those numbers again too, for just if there's been any changes, so I'll reach out to the contractors that we've talked to and got prices on, and see if there's been any changes.
Like you next March,
March.
And we did talk a little bit today about the bathhouse, you know. The size bathhouse we got is big enough for what we have and the expansion. But we decided way back, it's like, well, let's add another stall for bathroom and shower and stuff. So we could always downsize that again to save money if all the numbers are coming in high again. So there's a place that we could go back to the original size, but I think we just figure out where the numbers are
From what we had.
from what we had.
And then we'll just reevaluate.
Yep. Okay. Pool, I think that's gonna be a work in progress this winter, you know, just kind of fine tune some things.
Is that all winterized and done, taken care of?
How is the pool look going? Is it, I mean, with the money we put in and stuff, does it look pretty,
You told me too, with the paint and starting to flake pretty good.
it is again?
Yep.
So that
That's
was,
it. Burbach had said that it was 2 years, maybe 3 if we're lucky, and this will be year number 2, right? Going into the second year.
What we had the big problem with this year was the mirrors on the skimmer baskets. And when I'm close to staying in there on myself. And that was part of Thatcher redoing that cement on the sides, now the mirrors don't fit like they should.
Is there any benefit to keeping it full versus draining it, or what with the expansion or anything? Is there,
We gotta keep it, we keep some water.
right, I mean, is there any benefit to the weakening of the structure if you do it one way versus the other?
No, it's just the recommendations to keep that water level in.
You mean like if you kept it full and?
Yeah, full and
Heated.
protected and beneath versus, you know, something that, I don't know. Just asking if there was an expert Thatcher or Burbach or anybody that say, do it this way or that, and you may get another.
So even good, you know, they drain theirs all the way out, but then they'll fill it back probably up.
so with this pool thing, I mean, it's been going around and around for so long. Do we want to have more meetings with the city council and stuff? Because, you know, kind of what we start going forward on, and then all of a sudden we run into another roadblock, why it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? I know you guys are probably sharing the stuff with them, but I don't know. When I first got on, I asked them, I said, okay, so I want the backing from the council, and are you on board? Yep, go for it. We just keep running these roadblocks, so. And I don't know how, I mean, we know this thing is, I mean, are we willing to spend another 100,000 on this again in another year? Because we're coming to that 3-year,
No.
you know, so those are decisions that have to be made, I think, probably because if we're not willing to do this and that thing can't be open, we might go a couple of years without a pool. I mean,
Right.
Realistically, I just,
Does the city council understand how dire it is?
No. I mean, I do,
right.
but we can, I can present that to them on Thursday.
Because, we're waiting for this bonding amount to come back.
Right.
And I think with that bonding discussion that the city council should be having, there needs to be an understanding at the council level that the pool's dying.
Yes.
And if we don't get money, and if we don't get help getting money and the support from the bonding so we can go forward to start fundraising, we're not gonna have a pool.
Well, I think what might be prudent is not to say the pool is dying. You need to tell them the pool is dead.
The pool is dead.
And you just saw the last year that it's gonna run. Now what?
I'm comfortable with that verbiage going back, are you?
Well, because that's why I brought this up, because I think you're exactly right. They don't know how serious this is, because when I was on, that was my first meeting, like I told you before, and then I went and they said, yeah, you go for it, and we're behind you and stuff, and then all of a sudden, but they, we spent because I told them, I don't want to spend money with a company like Burbach, and then all of a sudden we run a roadblock. Well, we ran into a roadblock with the old 52. They've been working on it for years, but never said anything about it. So that stopped it and stuff. And now that you guys got somebody checking to see what projects should go through and stuff. And, I know there's a lot of stuff that has to be fixed and stuff, but I just, if we're way back on the list, I don't want to spend a lot of time this winter going through having Burbach come again.
On Thursday, can you present a list of the why? Because you said the sewer system is bad,
Well,
the kiddie pool's dead,
we look at a lot of different things, it started with the baby pool, we worked on that baby pool, and then same thing, we just said, enough is enough.
Right.
We can't keep dropping all this money into it, and it was done. So the baby pool's gone away. We've got a bathroom inside now, one bathroom that we haven't opened for 2 years because our infrastructure in the floor, this old cast iron pipe that's rotted out, all your traps, your floor drain traps and everything, if you go in there, the floor drain traps are all rotted out. And the cast iron pipe, so that's the next thing, it's one thing with the pool, and then you got the bathhouse, and then when one more of those bathrooms go down, I think we're done. I can't have another bathroom go down in the entryway coming out, but we don't have any bathrooms in the entryway, we're down to one now.
so the actual structure itself, the pool itself is actually okay. It's the infrastructure that is,
No,
it can't be rebuilt.
The pool
itself is
the walls
crumbling
are
in.
falling
So the
in,
walls
and
cave in.
So
the
we just
patches
said-
are under last.
Okay.
That was 100,000, and then when Thatcher did that, he told us, well, expect maybe 2 years out of it at the most, after he
Okay.
dumped 100,000.
in it.
So
Correct.
what you probably ought to do, and I'm not a voting member here, is you probably ought to do is you ought to make you ought to say, somebody make a motion and somebody second it, that the pool is shut down, we're done. And now we need the city council to tell us what to do, which we work with the planning department, and because I'm not a pool guy, I represent the people, I hope, is in my position, but I think that the city ought to decide what we're gonna do, and, you guys have great ideas of finding funding and where to put it.
And I think that's a great thing, because, we make our own decision, but the ultimate last person is the city council has to approve that we go for a bond on it. So,
Right.
yeah, so put it there. And I think you're right, make a list. We got a lot of new council members,
Right.
probably 3, that when we originally was giving this to them, they knew, but I think you're right, we gotta get serious about it, like,
Yeah, I've only been on here since July, so I'm really green, but what I've seen is you do this, well, okay, we're waiting for them to do that, and we're waiting for this, and we're waiting, and so it keeps on going back and forth. If you guys come to the council definitively and said, we just voted, and the pool's shut down, it's in your court, we need the bonding to move forward and to build a new pool.
Doesn't it sound like that? Like they're just waiting for us to say, we made a motion to get a new pool, and then we hand it over.
well, and the reason we shut the baby pool down for one reason was because of the structure of it. And the other reason we couldn't keep the chemicals, couldn't keep it balanced. So,
Correct.
you know,
My grandkids were upset by that, by the way.
when they closed it,
Well, I think the main pool is like right behind it. Like, I love your point, like it's not dying, it's like dead. And I agree with some of the other comments here. I personally don't want to see us stick another 5, 10, or surely not $100,000 into just milking this thing along just one more season. Like, I think that's an excellent idea. It's just like, there's just no sense in sticking even $10,000 into trying to get this thing back up and running when we could put that 10,000 towards the construction of a new one. Like, just stop throwing money into a
and
hole.
let them make the decision if it's a
Right.
priority for the town, they move that up before this priority or what, you know, just.
Let's commend the pool staff for making a great year this year.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just be honest with you, being the CTO over for that makes me nervous. Just the mere fact that that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of young people that we're trying to keep safe out there. Chemicals have always, even in the big pool, chemicals are, you know, you can maintain it easier than we could in the baby pool, but there's times I come out here and it's just completely out of whack and you're starting from scratch and it's just like, I honestly, I don't like holding them.
Because you've been told if something else breaks, they can come after you and the city.
And that came from the CPO class.
Right. And we were told otherwise, like, no, they can't do that with.
Oh, yeah.
That was just one individual.
So, but that's what I mean, that's all serious it is. We get, you know, Mike can just say, you know, I'm not doing this, and I don't blame him because he's responsible. So anyway, that's, you know, we're gonna get. And I can get you what Burbach, I'm trying, that pamphlet, originally Burbach came out here and went through everything.
Yeah.
And told us what was wrong and how much it would cost to kind of rebuild what we had. And that was like $2.3 million or something. Like, and that didn't get us zero entry either, did it?
It was just reviewed.
And what we're hearing is people want the zero entry and they want the splash pool, plus the regular pool.
It's crazy.
And a
Lake
sauna.
City did a really beautiful one right on the waterfront.
Lake City?
Slash,
Oh, yeah, that's very nice in Lake City.
Okay, so we could turn this pool into a skate park for the winter. And we need a media blitz. We need a 2023 media blitz. Hey, we're taking care of the trees. Hey, community, we also are gonna do this pool because it's time. So this is our plan for 2023 Park Board. Everyone know about it. And then everyone's talking and they say, hey, this skate park really works in the pool, but we need to build one because now it's a skate park. I'm gonna be serious.
And then they give us all their money and we able to get it.
So,
Communication might really lead to something.
Well, and we have to do a referendum for the pool, don't we?
Well,
So-
and we know we can do some fundraising for it, so it's not like we have.
Well, so the community might say they don't want it at all. Because if they don't vote to have it go forward, then we're dead in the water.
then we're done.
You do that with the November ballot.
Unintended.
It's too late for the November ballot. Those ballots are printed, yeah.
Yeah.
We got that's something like, yeah, put it out there and let the people decide.
But I'm
So
trying
how
to,
should we approach this then, or? I mean, I know you said we should just vote to shut it down. Or,
Yeah, by voting like that, it clearly puts the onus on the city council, because right now they're waiting for you. And if you say, we're done, then it opens that up.
The only thing was that wasn't, what was presented to them.
what's that?
They weren't waiting for us, the park board was waiting for the city council. Correct. That was part of, that wasn't, you know, that
Tell us how
was,
much bond we could.
that was just an Eller's conversation with knowing how much bonding. That was kind of the way it was presented to you guys, correct?
Right.
Yes, that we were waiting.
Okay.
At the last meeting, the gentleman said that we were waiting for a bonding amount to come back from the council. And so has the council made a decision on what they're going to do for the bond?
They haven't got that back from
They've
them.
got that back.
We had a meeting with them, but there's gonna be another meeting with them coming up soon, and then that'll include the council, then we'll include
And
the
that,
council.
and that's why Burbach is on hold right now. Their next step is to come in and do the fundraising with us, but they also said they didn't want to do any fundraising until they know how much they had to fundraise, until we knew how much bond that we had. So that's what they're waiting on also.
I think to be proactive in anticipation of that, though, if we can have a laundry list of all the things that would need immediate attention just in order to reopen next spring, we can think of now, on top of the quote-unquote unofficial warranty that Thatcher said this is going to give you 2 years. And he said that 2 years ago, like literally, it's out of warranty, it needs all these things. The park board has literally drawn a line in the sand that says we're not gonna spend any more money to try and keep this pool open. We've pushed and asked politely for some money, from the bonding side, not getting it. So we just want we're not gonna dump any more money into this pool, it's done. But we need some of that evidence to say this is why we wouldn't wanna put any money into it next year.
And I can bring that list.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it because it's an old list.
It's a long list.
It's an old, long list.
So if it's dead, then what? Now what do you want to do?
If it's dead, then the city council has to decide if it's a priority.
Because we really don't know until like next spring now when Mike goes fires everything, if this baby's even gonna make it through.
Because if we aren't given the go-ahead to try to bond and get the okay to raise the money,
Do you know how
Then
close they
there's
are to
nothing we can
figuring
do.
that out? They got a company looking into that, don't they?
that's that Ellers,
That's
isn't it?
Ellers, yeah.
Do you remember Brian mentioning it was a portion, like 2 million? He had a number at one point, do you remember that? Yeah,
I don't
He was
re-
kind of like, well, we might come up with such and such, and he said a number.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing a number, but
I think always the last thing that always gets thrown out there is we'll just go fundraise for the whole thing.
Mhm.
That's kind of always the last throw out there is we'll just fundraise for the whole thing, or just figure you have to raise money for the whole thing.
And bonds come through and skate park on the excess.
realistically though, to fundraise a pool for what we're looking at,
Even,
You'd be-
if you talk to Goodhue, even they had their little thermometer or whatever, they ended up kicking in more cash at the end of it too, over there. At the very end of it, they had to find more money than the fundraising amount that they were expecting. And they did raise, they did really good on the fundraising, but they ran a little short there too.
and what did their pool cost?
I think it was around 1.8 or 2 something.
So when the good use that, and that was how many years ago?
That's 7, 8 years ago.
So that's
Well, and theirs
probably,
is not zero depth entry, is it? It is,
It is.
okay.
so I'm betting that we'd be spending close to 4 or 5 for a pool.
Well, the one that we've, before, well, I don't know, a couple months ago or a couple years ago, or a year ago, we were at this, and then we finally come down to like Chatfield's got a nice meeting, and Burbach estimated that a year ago at 5.5.
Yeah.
And that was pretty, that was a zero entry, one little slide and nothing.
It had room to grow and add things too.
World or anything, so that was, if we want a decent pool, it's probably gonna cost $5 or $6 million.
And we do want a decent.
And we can't fundraise that on our own.
Nope.
Well, there's consequences to closing it, right?
Mhm.
We have to think of the language we use and what the community will think.
You will get a lot of back. I'm just saying, I mean, we even had trouble at Cooper's here.
I was gonna say, we remember the summer of 2020, right?
We really got,
We took heed.
But the thing of it is that as the park board, we have to lead with that it is not safe.
Mhm.
We've invested over $100,000 just to keep it open for 2 years, and we can't put any more money into it.
Full of
And,
COVID.
Hmm?
Full of COVID.
well, we don't want to say that. But, and, you know, and unfortunately, it's going to fall into the lap of the council. Is this a priority for the amenities of the city?
And then another thing that I brought up, you know, this pool, I should bring that stuff to show you guys. The pool of Chatfield is 5.5, you know, or do we need, because it was 2.5 million to fix everything up on this one.
Mhm.
So maybe, you know, we could maybe still have a nice pool at 3.5 million. So that's, you know what I'm saying? There's, I think some,
Well, I could be making it up, but didn't he say that to replace what we had with zero depth entry would be like 4 to 5 million? Or am I just thinking that Chatfield was somewhat similar to what we had?
See, I always thought Chatfield was like a step above and we had.
Like size wise though?
Yeah.
Is it a little bit bigger or a lot bigger?
no, it's just a little bit bigger than.
Okay.
Because that original that we had, we were like twice the size of this. And
Yeah.
it was like, no, we don't need anything like that.
There's 3 design models that we can print out, right? I remember the top tier, and then there was the middle thing that a water slide and a climbing wall that we wanted, and then there was the replacement. And I remember it was 2.5, and then it was 5, and then it was 8. So-
Right, yes.
Maybe-
And that
maybe-
was years ago, so you have to figure in with the inflation.
Because I think doing this one, refurbishing this one at $2.5 million at that time with no zero entry, it just, to me, kind of throwing some money up. Unless we send another, whatever, you gotta go after the zero entry.
Because the zero entry was kind of, that and the splash pad was taking the place of the kiddie pool. And that's what people really said they wanted.
Yeah.
With the survey was the access for the little kids and then the swim lessons.
And maybe we just gotta have a conversation with Josh too, being that we're this far, you know, of like, where are we at with this Chatfield one, and can you roll some numbers on something, maybe not, you know, similar to what we got, but whatever, let's see, just give us some ideas of where our price is. Okay, so is there anything that we wanna do, a lot of conversation, discussion on it, but, or were we taking it from here? Are we sending something to the council, a
Well-
message?
I think we have to send a message to the council. Because as soon as they get all of that information from the bond people, they need to know that they have to make that a priority.
So
Or we're gonna lose the pool.
So just, you know, Dirk take that to him, or do you want something from us, Dirk, or what?
Well, I can definitely present that it is your understanding that this is no longer safe, that you don't want to put any more money into it, and you want the city council to decide what the priority is. Because I know you and I have talked about, would you want a community center with a closed pool, something that would have basketball courts and other things to it that could be used year-round, or do we want something that is just going to be open for 3 to 4 months a year? And what kind of expense is that going to be? Because this is, you're looking at 4 to 5 million, right? That's money we either raise it or we tax it. Or the cost of it's going to cover some of those things, but I think the billing or charging people is not, at this point, is still not covering the annual costs. So we can't assume that that's going to get any better, right?
What am I goal of it? The tax was about $200 per household, if I remember,
And
per year.
I personally, I love having the park, I love having a community, the pool, it's great, I've used it. Are we at a point where is Zumbrota big enough that people are willing to do that and buy it and say, because it's easy just to tax somebody, but there's a lot of people that their backs are being broken by taxes right now. know, if we just say, oh, it's another $40 more, like, it's just $40 more, you know? But let me bring this back to them, and I can get with you and you can bring it to the team. But I think the option's gonna be is, we need to decide, are we gonna just lift this one up and put a brand new one in? Are we gonna go with the community center? Because if we do, we're probably like you said, we've talked before, 2 to 3 years without a pool while this is getting done. So people are going to Pine Island, taking care of it. But then when it gets done, it's gonna be awesome.
And go back, that gets put out for whatever, and I know you don't like a splash pad, but if that's gonna be 3 years, shut down 3 years out, do we go ahead and put a splash pad out there?
In that area, just without a bathroom and all that, or just the pad?
You can do it without a bathroom, but if you're gonna return your water, I mean, you would need to have, what was it, Brad Hatcher, was he one that was, you need to have pumps, and you'd have to have another little.
It'd have to be its own self-contained.
Okay, pump system.
It's about $700,000-800,000 for a spot.
I mean, that area is not that big. I mean, even a splash pad, with all that construction going on, I mean, there's no way in that small little lot that you're gonna be able to do construction and have a recreational area that's still safe. So I think regardless, even if the bond was approved and we had the money tomorrow and we told, Thatcher to start a new pool right away in the spring, I mean, we're gonna be without a pool for a full year, right? I mean, what's the construction ETA? That's multiple months, right?
That really wasn't the plan. They actually, and that was Verback, actually, to get started, probably started earlier, and they would have a pool back up and running by spring, July.
Really?
It's pretty aggressive construction.
They said as soon as they
That'd be
close
impressive.
in August, they would get in there and then have it up and running in the spring. Is what they told us.
That's pretty aggressive. That's coming for a lot of good days of weather too. I think, who else did that? Was a plan? I can't remember. One of those other towns did it. They got pushed off till probably the end of July, but they did open it that year, that summer.
Tear down in the fall and construction early spring and open in the summer. That's pretty aggressive.
And still, like you said, I still have an issue with $5.5 million in a 3-month business. Yeah, we know it's gonna lose 50,000 a year. So when he says about this, to me, like, we're gonna have to tax people, I would think that more people with something that's year round would probably be willing to spend $11 million versus $5.5 million on something for 3 months. I don't know. I'm just.
Right. But that opens up a whole new can of worms too, because where do you put that? You sure don't put a community center out in the middle of a residential in the back end of the park. That's, that'd have to go somewhere else. So then you gotta decide what you're gonna do with that section of the park.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
But that's in a floodplain, right? Can't,
The pool's not.
but where the campground is.
The proposed campground.
Oh, okay. I'm not privy to that information yet.
Okay, well, we got some discussion and
Plain Edge, there's
I'm thinking we'll take that.
flood
one.
fringe, there's.
Come back to that. Pool update, Ann's not here.
No, this is volleyball season for her, so I
Oh, sure.
forgot that she'd be. Everything went well.
Okay.
Lessons are obviously done.
did an awesome job.
Oh, yeah, probably-
Pool's closed.
That's okay.
Okay, we'll go to new business then. Let's move the trees first before we get into another lengthy discussion.
Larry wanted to take 3 trees from the nursery over here and put them in that area that we took over.
Down by the campground there.
Back of the campground. He figured probably $600 to move them.
That's a great idea, because you had said earlier in an earlier meeting that Yeah, soon before they get too big.
That's where we're at with a lot of those trees. There's some nice oak trees that we can get moved there yet, but after that, there's gonna be some that are.
Okay.
So I just.
So we need to have a motion for
Entertain a
that?
motion for that.
I'll make a motion that Larry moves those trees.
Motion and second for Larry to move trees into the park. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
You said the cost would be around 650,
600.
600 total?
Okay, Cover Bridge Park Survey discussion. Now, you sent out a memo, did
I
you
sent
read
out
that
a
memo?
memo, and I think everybody got a chance to look at that. Did you do a chance to look at that? I'll just bring, she's got it up there, but.
Yeah. That's one of those three options, right?
Yeah.
Well, ultimately, that's what.
I'll zoom in on it too.
And I got another one if anybody wants
You got
to.
one there?
I got an extra one.
You just tell me a section you want to focus on and I can move it wherever.
Well, the reality of it is you go from one end of that park to the other, there's, just a lot of encroachments on it. Number one up there, number one is.
Oh, here, Mike, you keep this, I can.
I can see that from here.
Wait, do you need it? I can zoom in farther.
No, you, not that far from me, so just do it first. I'll just look at this.
So does that say it's 28 feet or inches?
28 feet.
Maybe,
Plus or minus, and that's on the property line, and that is a mow area. That's just a mow area there. The next one, number 2, is 9+ feet or minus. A shed is 1.5 feet plus, there was some pavers on that too, I believe.
Those are like a tree, like a ditch and a whole bunch of trees, right?
Yeah. And then number 3, that's landscape area, so and that's 32 feet. And that's landscape timbers, and then there's, some kind of a barrel buried back in perforating water. Number 4 is, well, that's up. We've talked about this before too, as we were talking about the campground. Number 4 is an old truck. So there's a couple of issues with that. One is it's an ordinance violation, plus that's parked on the city line too. And then number 5 is edge of a shed, 2 feet plus or minus. Landscaping is 22 feet. Number 6 is landscaping area, which.
Where did 6
Oh, I think that's.
Oh, are we gonna lose our wording now?
Yeah,
Yep, so that's right here.
And then number 7.
7,
Fence,
Fence.
18 feet
okay, so the fence, and then 8,
is.
parked
shed.
boat.
Well, that's the shed, 17 feet.
No, this is parked boat and then the shed.
Shed is 17 feet.
A very large shed.
It's very large.
Very large.
So are these been permitted?
They've been there for a long time. The shed that's 7 feet on, that's been there a long time.
Previous one.
You mean, are they permanent sheds?
Yeah. I mean, did they pull permits to build that? Do you have to pull a
Didn't
permit
have
for a
to,
shed?
If it's under 200 square feet,
Under-
or over,
Over.
sorry, over
Oh,
200 square feet.
And fences, if they're less than 6 feet tall, you don't need a permit.
Okay.
Less than 7 feet tall, you don't need a permit.
But I was reading a little bit on that, it's like, yeah, they didn't need permits, but it was the responsibility of the
Still,
homeowners to
Right,
know
right.
where their line is.
so there really is, and to be honest with you, then there was a new fence, it's just, and I think that was a 7.5 feet. I'm not sure. There's a new fence up on number.
9 is the fence.
Yeah, that was just put in this summer, and that was like, was that 6 feet over?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of encroachments, and they're not stopping, obviously.
2.5. No,
So Matt Rodney, I included his email, he said if any structures are movable, get them moved. Well, You know, to be honest with you, they're all movable. It's just a matter of how you're gonna move.
Mhm.
Yeah. So when I talked to the League of Minnesota Cities, they laid out 3 options. One was to do nothing, 2 was to get landowner owners to remove the encroachments, and 3 was entering into an encroachment agreement with the landowners. He said that his recommendation and the approach would be to get them to remove it, or at least start there, start with and see how they, they reset it. So I know for a fact, when Dylan and I, the previous EPA guy that was here, we went out when we were looking for property pins, see if we could find them. And I know for a fact that people came out and said they already knew they were encroaching. And so and some of that stuff is they knew they were encroaching. So that's what I struggle with a little bit.
And they still did it.
And they still did it.
Fantastic.
So that's good to know, though, if we do say, well, you gotta move it, and they big fuss, well.
Well, that gentleman actually wanted to make an agreement with the park board to do some other stuff and get the land or something. But anyway, that's just it.
Well, and some of them, we think like this, the new fence that went in, we're thinking, so this,
Probably lined up with another fence that was there.
yeah, because this number
Oh.
11 here, they put in a fence when they purchased the place, and I'm sure they just kind of went straight off of what theirs was, but
Instead of
the land
angling.
kind of starts
Yeah.
to curve, so.
Do people just put fences in without surveying their property lines?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Why?
The thing that
Oh.
the league kind of said was that the fact that these were
Literally the first thing I did before we put a fence in the house.
that the encroachments have been unreasonable and that they're more than 2 inches long. Everybody, even Johnson Schofield said he's never seen anything in the survey like this, that you're so many feet off on this stuff. Really what it boiled down to, and what Dave told me, was just ignorance on the landowner's part for not doing their homework and getting property tax.
It's really
Right.
not that difficult to get a surveyor, like, sorry.
I
Just
like
blows
what
my
Fred-
mind a little bit.
I like what Fred was at last meeting where he said, once we do get those in there, we do some coffee cans or cement or some permanent markings for the pins, so it's very easy in the future, so there is no ignorance, I guess.
Probably should put a, just own some steel fence. I mean, I know they got pins in it, but if you call them pin in and paint the tops of them, hopefully, unless people fall off. I mean,
Right, and that's the nice thing about having the coffee, because eventually with them pins with nothing wrong, the dirt starts collecting over them, and all of a sudden we're right back to square one again. We have a coffee can, raise it a little bit with cement, paint that all orange.
So Matt's question to me was, wanted to know what the survey of the swimming pool area and the survey of the park looked like, if there was anything that was way out of alignment with that. And when I talked to Marcus from Johnson Schofield, he said that all pretty meshed. He said there was nothing that really jumped out at him, it all meshed really good. It looked like the swimming pool addition and the park addition. He said that's pretty much what they went off from, was what we had. So there wasn't anything that really stood out to them that was way out of whack or nothing. Everything was. And again, Fred had asked me to go back and find, this isn't a new topic for the park board. I don't know how many people are here, but back in 2018, we had this very discussion back then again. And I think at the time Neil was here and he had WHKS go out. They didn't do a complete survey like we did, just go out and see if they could find the property pins. I think that's all they did. I don't even know what the conclusion of that was. But the complete survey, I think they did a very good job. I like what they did, and they gave you encroachments right there. But then we also looked at, up on the south end of town by Quick Trip, that little part there. Now there's encroachments up there too. That I think when you start on these encroachments, we have to be consistent.
Yeah. I agree.
We gotta get everybody straight, if that's the way everybody chooses to go.
And that's the dealership up there. He's
It would be good.
kept on pushing.
He's pushing.
More gravel.
Sure.
So it's just a matter, and he's been very good about it. I mean, back then we talked to him, he wanted to buy a section of it, but we're, like we talked before, we're in the market.
So the number one, all he's doing is he's mowing it.
Yeah.
And we would just say stop. Or is that an issue that he's mowing it or?
No, I think it's just more of an awareness, you know, that.
Yeah, for him it'd be easy.
Right.
Yeah.
You can mow it, thank you for mowing it, but.
And he'll probably want to continue that. I don't see the problem unless.
Because otherwise it's just wooded area.
Right?
Correct.
But when you mow it,
You're claiming it. And the problem is that if we don't point it out and say, then they can come back and say, well, I've been taking care of it for all of these years for you.
Right.
And now it's mine. Yeah, exactly.
So that was just, and that's a good point. There is no such thing as,
Eminent domain on city property.
There isn't?
No.
Good.
no, and then they also said somebody might want to come back and say, well, geez, we're grandfathered in. Grandfathering in is only good on zoning. It has nothing to do with land encroachment, so.
as a homeowner.
I would just want to clearly have those
I would-
marked without a big ugly T-post fence or something. I would want something that's flush that I can run my lawnmower over, but I know exactly where it is. And if the city were to send me a letter that says, hey, FYI, you have two big orange, discs or metal plates or whatever on the corner. If you put a string between those two, that is your property line. We're asking you to get anything that's yours off of there. If we decide to put a fence up or a shrub or do anything, this is the hard line in our property. There is no encroachment. That would be the first step I would want as a homeowner.
Just a letter.
Correct
Yeah.
terminology for that is adverse possession. There's no adverse possession to public property. That comes from the league.
So one is mowing, 5 is also just landscaping, right?
Isn't that odd? It's a whole bunch of red mulch or pine mulch there.
So is the first
And
thing,
there's
We
a
do
shed
make sure
back
we
there,
go and get
the shed is
the
2 feet.
corner.
I think there's a
wait, is this
small
the shed right here?
Oh,
The
that tiny
utility
little.
Right, but what I'm saying with the mulch and stuff, I mean, we just point out where the line is and they can leave the mulch there or?
I guess that's.
Well,
Isn't that kind of right where the little dead tree, like, it's not really a culvert, but it used to be almost like a little empty roadway or something? Isn't that right in, next to kind of, right about there? Isn't that where the bike
Yeah.
path kind of
Yeah,
veers a little
kinda,
bit? And if you
yep.
were to go straight into the woods, that's right about there?
Yeah, it's right where before the tree line
So I believe
starts.
number 4 is Bryce Frederick, and then who would ever be right next to Bryce Frederick?
Good.
Blackstead's.
That's number 5.
That's what number 5 is, right?
I mean,
All his red mulch and stuff.
Is that, yeah, and there's a shed, a utility shed that is all relative 2 feet. On that number 5.
1 through 5 doesn't prevent any maintenance of the park or mowing or anything. Nothing back there is preventing us from actively doing things on a week-to-week basis or anything, is it?
I'm right against the path, a lot of them are in the woods, except for that mulch. There's some kind of look
Yeah, because he's got trees planted probably maybe right on the line. The mulch, I think, kind of equally circles around the grouping of trees.
right in the mulch, but it's an ants, pine needles.
What's your thought, Mike, on
On what?
that? No, that's like,
Oh,
well, the mulch and the mowings and the.
I just think it's a communication thing again. We put the discs down, we go stop. We tell them that, hey, you can't do this, instead of, get off our land, we're gonna sue you. But, one thing I worry about that I don't know if I should bring up is, are any of these houses the citizens that came at us for the, campground?
That is
All of
what
them.
my biggest concern
Does
was.
it feel like retaliation?
Right.
Right?
So again, I think that's
That's
why.
why we went back to
If you wanted to
2018.
define where
before
we
this,
were at in
we were talking about that.
2018 with it.
Yeah, that was
Well, and
immediately the
we
first
can't
thing
say
I thought
all
of.
of them
No.
are just,
No.
this chunk.
I'd say up to 5.
Yeah.
Up to number 5.
I don't know. Maybe it's a good point to make then. hearing would say, "Well, every field parkway." That would be one of my lessons, is first joining the parkway, give it away.
Right.
And we're trying to, I'm being really rough here, but we're trying to make the parkland more.
Well, I think there was kind of that precedent set back with the East Park a couple of years ago when somebody wanted to buy some of the East Park too. And Park Board back then said, no, we're not, and you were part of that. Park Board, I don't know, maybe a lot of you, but Park Board then said, too, we're not selling.
We're running a driveway.
Yes.
You guys were all
Yep.
part of that.
And it come right down to that East Park.
Yeah.
We couldn't have sold it if we wanted to because it went further back to, somebody else tried to do that years and years ago. That was all donated. So it was illegal.
Well, and I don't know what it is like, but I would think there would be quite a process to try to get chunks of that. If people wanted, trying to sell off chunks of that too, just to cover Bridge Park, I think that'd be quite a process to try to go sell public land like that. And then it comes down to encroachments. Are you guys interested in encroachment agreements? Well, that's an option.
Yeah, and I don't think we have to adjust our lines and sell or anything for their negligence. Finding out where this stuff is.
Here's a wild thing. What if we give them 20 feet and sell it to them for pool funds?
For $5 million.
Just like, I don't know, is it like $10,000 for a quarter acre?
I guess the buildings and stuff that were quote unquote there many, many years ago, that would be the one that I would be most concerned of is like, hey, FYI, you don't know this, but the previous homeowner put this up and didn't do their due diligence and put it literally 7 feet or whatever it is right out on city property. We need you to move it. Right. Someone who mows 3 feet over the property line into some heavily weeded area doesn't bother me at all. And I get that we don't want to give things away and each year it might go another foot and another foot, but I mean, back to Dirk, you want to mow my lawn? Yeah, my property line is another 50 feet this way. Come on over, keep
Right.
mowing it, you know?
Right, it's not stuff put there.
But also too, similar to that, we gotta keep an eye on that too, where we're doing 3 feet, we're probably, maybe over here, well, I'm gonna take this all the way to the walking path.
Right.
Yep.
Park, we don't want that, we want the buffer between the walking path and that. So
We
Yep.
want green space, that's the
you know,
whole thing we heard.
We can't,
Yep.
we gotta have, reins on that too.
So if that's the case, I would almost argue we want to be more proactive, especially when it comes back to the original campground discussion and our natural fencing. If we're going to push this, I would follow it right up with a phase 2 and say, let's put in our natural divide and say, here's the shrub that we're going to plant, and this is our hard line in the sand, that the city wants to do this now so that in the future, if we do get the campground, this is already established. Yeah. Some sort of greenery that's a natural
You
fence.
can have cranberry, winterberry, there's wild bushes that birds love.
There you go.
Afro shrub.
And just say FYI, it is the park board's decision as of, this particular future date, we are going to be planting on this line, blah, 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 as part of our initiative to establish the boundary, whatever narrative we have.
I think whatever we decide to do, it has to be fair for each block, though we can't say this
Correct.
homeowner is okay mowing
Yeah.
and this owner has to move his shed.
Yeah.
And it's got to be the same for everybody.
Correct.
Cause you're gonna get that, like, well,
Right.
you let him do it, why can't I?
Mhm.
Right.
We got
A natural barrier would be a hard line for everybody.
That giant shed is gonna be a compromise road. That thing is huge.
Well, that's right. You also have to give a really appropriate timeline too.
Right, yeah,
Because some of these things like the shed are gonna take some funds.
yeah.
Or we sell it for pool money. Or we buy a shed for a skate park. Sorry.
Okay, so, we're not gonna make a decision.
I think you
on
guys
this,
take
but
that
if
hold and.
We got a comment here, a month or whatever, and
So we think that these folks know that they're over their lines.
Some,
I know two.
Yeah, I would say some
Do, some
Some
don't.
probably don't, yeah.
So do we start with like just a informational letter to them and say the survey was done in preparation for the grant work? We have problems with boundary lines. And we need to let you know that we're looking at it so that,
in preparations for the, what, you said grant?
well, why did we do the survey in the first place?
Just for that reason, we knew people were.
Oh,
approaching.
we did it
It's-
specifically
it's
because,
Nothing to do with the.
Okay.
I think part of it was, again, it's not stopping, so this summer we had another fence that went up, and it's like, we gotta start, and we talked about it in 2018, but now we had another fence go up.
Yeah.
That's clearly over the property
Mhm.
line. Somehow we gotta start kind of.
There's gotta be some starting point. And I think, like you said, in 2018, we started talking about, because that we knew
Right.
that shed was way over.
So we
And
could,
then we conducted a recent survey and we found that this is,
it's a continuing problem.
Yeah, and like Mike said, somebody just did this, so it continues to happen unless we nip it in the bud.
Can break out the red telephone poles again. That was the original park border.
So, yeah, I think roll that around. We'll have some more discussion next month on it. That's,
There'll be hurt feelings.
People need to manage.
Mhm.
Why we gotta manage this world so much?
okay.
You're looking at the clock because you're too late to.
Yeah. You want to stretch this out
We're
for
too early
25 minutes?
So we can talk a little bit more about it.
And please remember that next month's meeting is a week later. It's November 14th because of the election.
yes.
Hey, can I ask for your opinion before I make a movement?
Who to vote for it?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Oh, my.
Okay.
I'm gonna organize a buckthorn poll probably more down the path than just the red path.
A what?
A buckthorn poll. When the leaves start dying, the buckthorns stay green, so they're kind of more visible at this time of year.
So where are you gonna pull?
Mainly the Pioneer Trail and then going into.
Would you like to come to my backyard?
If you didn't know, buckthorn overtakes the understory.
Yeah. I would love to have you come to my backyard and tell me what I have back there.
You looking for,
Permission,
to do this?
or just
Yeah.
telling us.
I'm just gonna go do that with a group of whoever, and if you guys don't like it, or I'll leave all the berries on the back.
I was like, isn't that like super
Go for it.
invasive
All right.
Very.
thing? Yeah.
There's tricks to not spread it when you cut it, so.
Now, this sheet was laying here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just the current cash sheet from Kim. The highlighted one is the money that she suggested that you don't touch if you're gonna do the campground stuff.
Oh,
Otherwise, so 225 is park, 615 is pool. And then she kind of made
615 is
some,
pool.
615 is pool, and 616 is also pool. So 225 and 226 are park.
So that 227 is for
Campground.
campgrounds and projects we're doing,
226?
or 226, but
Yep.
227,000.
Yep, that's the
That's
money
for our
that you guys
projects
had
going up.
set aside for the projects. Yep, for, not for the, just for the campground project, because I believe that was maybe the money that was set aside for the playground, for Kids Kingdom, Kids
Well,
Kingdom.
there was 100 and some thousand for that, but we won't need all that for the campground. Is our-
Well,
If the.
Oh, it says $227,753.98.
There it says, this is set aside money for campground, et cetera.
Because that's
If our
your,
portion of the grant
because
goes
that's,
through, we need
I believe that,
107.
I believe 226 is the campground restricted fund. 225 is just the regular park. And so on top of the 64,000 that's in there, Kim said that 27,000 will be added from taxes in December. But then you also have to factor in, like, we have some replacement doors around the parks that need to get updated that are quite costly. that we didn't really expect to happen.
We're just on a maintenance wise, we're gonna replace that one in East Park. It's rotted off at the bottom. I showed it to Fred the other day, and then that one had a big, somebody kicked it in, well, you see it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
On the very bottom of it, the core of it's rotten, so that's just a maintenance thing. That is a cost that's gonna come. We looked at doors, I actually know JJ was gonna give me a price on those aluminum clad doors, and I think they look like a pretty good door.
Cause like that other 22,000 that we got on that must be gonna come out of that 220s.
The what?
The rest of the money for the shower or the bathrooms up
Oh,
here.
it must,
It-
yeah,
I mean, all the approved money that we've got to spend must be coming out of that same fund.
it must, yeah. So, but, yeah, those unexpected expenses are, especially since the park has been vandalized way too many times this summer.
Well, that-
Just recently, they were into the building again, and they caught them because of the cables.
Good. We're gonna prosecute them, right?
They'll pay for it.
They are coming, yeah, so he'll get the trespass, and then he's gonna pay for damages.
Did you say something about that it can't be on property then?
Yeah, he'll be trespassed,
That's what that.
yeah.
I
For a
guess.
That's a citation that he'll get.
It's only good for a year though, so.
And then he,
We're giving out life lessons this year.
There has been a lot of trouble this year.
Yeah,
So I had a question about the light that got backed into at the camp,
You know,
was that back in the campground?
no, it's right up from.
the open shelters.
Yeah, the
Oh,
open shelter.
So it wasn't reported or?
Well, it was just reported to us by the police, they didn't find it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it had happened. I think one of the officers had noticed that it was dark back in the park, and that's
Oh,
how they noticed it.
okay.
Because that might be the only light source in that area of the park, actually.
Quite a ways.
There's some in Kids Kingdom.
Sure. Oh, yep.
But from 58 all the way through that tree apron
It's
stuff,
pretty
yeah,
dark.
it's really dark until you get to that light, so.
Yeah.
I think you need to go with the big parking lot style cement base, then they are protected. You already moving on to signing stuff? Fred, we haven't even taken a motion to adjourn yet.
I'm waiting for it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
I.
Opposed? I want to talk more.
I was talking about.
17 more minutes, our pizza shows up.